Here we go. Welcome, Joel.
Sweet.
We're right into it.
I'm excited to be here.
You will have heard the phenomenal introduction we will have just given him off the mics. So you don't know this yet, but we go back, the magic of podcasting. But Joel, what you don't know is we actually ask all of our guests 5 questions to break the ice, chill out a little bit, have some fun. They're rapid fire, so you've just got to answer a couple of words. We'll be firm.
It's going to be
They're
tough.
not tough questions.
It's going to be tough.
They're not tough questions.
Giving you a couple of words is going to be tough.
Yeah. Shits. Okay, so name one guest you would have at your dinner party.
Jesus.
Hey, I like
It'd be an interesting
that.
conversation. What's the question you'd ask him? What's the first question?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd ask him about his experience of hanging on the cross. The word crucifixion comes from the word excruciating. So it's pretty... I know it sounds morbid, but...
No, not at all.
How did you go through that experience
How do you phrase it?
and not cuss out at everyone around you while you're going through that experience?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
How did you find the grace?
Much
Yeah.
respect for that one.
I love that.
Now, I know you're a vegetarian. Vegan? Vegetarian?
I'm a try-hard vegetarian, man.
Okay.
I've had a
What's
little
your
bit of
favourite?
fish lately.
Yes.
Flexitarian.
Sneaking in some fish fingers.
What's your favourite cuisine?
Favorite cuisine?
go to.
Italian, man.
Yeah.
Italian for sure.
Same. I love a bit of Italian.
I was like, I'm Mexican.
Mexican,
Yeah, I'm Mexican. I'm all Mexican.
Mexican looks like throw-up food, bro. It
really?
tastes so good, but it looks like someone threw
No,
up on a plate.
hang on. Let's pause there. Tex-Mex does.
Tex-Mex.
Proper
Oh, yeah.
Mexican, beautiful, like clean
just drown that
tacos.
shit in cheese.
Yeah, it's all just cheese.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm excited to ask you this because you have so much advice, but you will have been given so much advice. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
My grandma told my mum something that then my mum shared with me after my grandma died. And her mum had told her this, and I carried it on myself too. She said, dreams don't cost you anything, but they'll cost you everything if you don't try.
Yeah, right. That's that great, like, old school advice.
Old school, yeah. Before like Instagram was blowing up.
everything-
Yeah. God, I love grandmas.
Yeah.
Imagine if they...
Yeah.
I say this all the time though, if grandmas had Instagram today, like how much they would roll in their graves, I feel.
Oh
But they'd
yeah.
also give the most woke advice too.
Yeah. Actually, we should... Actually, if you're
True.
out there and your grandmother is like super woke with advice,
Yeah.
start her own damn Instagram.
Okay.
I'd follow. Okay,
Yeah.
you go.
All right, best piece. That was best. Yeah, so, when you were a young lad back in Willetton, which we'll talk about, what did you want to be when you
6155?
grew up?
Was that?
What did you want to be when you grew up?
What I want to be? Oh, I wanted to be a zoologist.
Yeah, cool.
I liked animals. I thought that was the best way to hang out with animals and like cool animals. You know,
Yeah.
like you get to hang in
Yeah.
the cages with the lions.
Joel
and stuff.
Exotic.
Yeah. Joel Exotic. Hey, yeah, it sounds like a stripper name, but
Hey,
that was my other career that I was looking for.
There's that and then that.
It's like a kid.
Okay, and what is your superpower?
My superpower is networking.
Ooh.
Yeah, but like finding like win-win leverage points and creating undeniable offers
Yeah.
with people and bringing people together. Like it's like the back of my hand. I thought it was normal, but I've been credited on it a lot by people. So.
Yeah,
I
it's
would-
funny you
yeah.
say because I was told that once the definition of a good deed is when both parties win.
Oh yeah, dude, that's deep.
Yeah,
That's
I don't know if it's deep.
That's some Yoda shit right there.
He is. He's like the Mexican looking Yoda of the world. Super smooth. But I would say that about you because, and I want to start here. I was saying to Morgs, it's funny and it's so not poetic, but funny to me that here we sit, all of us, so married and friends and all successful in our own right. And we've gone on to travel the world. You live in Bali, you're here accidentally. COVID, hashtag. But we all grew up in the same suburb. So we're all Willetton people.
Yep.
We all went to the same
high
school.
school.
For those that don't know, you were Willetton. Yeah, you were
Yeah.
Willetton.
Yeah, I'm 4 years older though, so I was kind of already out when you guys.
No, 4 years older than me. Joel's 2 years older than me, I think.
Oh, yeah, okay.
33.
You're 33. I'm 36.
Wait.
1 year.
Yeah, I'm 33.
Yeah, so you're 1 year older.
Yeah.
But I remember saying to Morgs when I was saying I'm so excited to interview you is that I've watched your climb. I have watched your climb literally since I was year 10, year 9. Like even then I remember we both did work, or I did work experience at Groove FM for all of our Perth listeners who remembers that radio station.
Yeah.
And did you work experience there or?
I used to produce a radio show. It started as work experience, and then it turned into. Remember, I used to breakdance. I was breakdancing for Student Edge, and then they were there DJing. Yeah. And then they ended up asking me to come on the show, and then I ended up getting some work experience, producing a show, then running my own show, and so on and so forth. Yeah. But this is nostalgic. Like that was a good time. That was really cool.
And then I remember talking to you years ago. Years ago, because you had your own podcast. You still have Addicted to Success podcast, which is phenomenal. Go download it. I remember you used to, I like hang out the washing and listen to it.
It wasn't always a podcast though in the beginning, was it?
Well, we started as a website, which is still around today. It's been around for almost 11 years.
It was 11 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
11 years. Can you believe that? It's insane. I think we've known each other for maybe 6.
Yeah.
6 or 7 years, I think.
Probably. I think my first time we hung out was in LA.
Listen to us.
Proper hung out. Yeah.
Oh, and you got really blind drunk.
Never me.
Hey. So did you.
I remember this. Yes, I remember this. No, but I had to take you home.
Yeah.
Oh my God, memories. Yes, this is so good.
That's good because, before I called you today, which is actually an interesting question, you're not drinking? Neither are we. We're doing Dry July, but you...
I'm not fully against drinking, as you guys know, because you've witnessed me drinking before.
Yeah.
Probably quite a few times in the past. I feel really good and really scented just not doing it right now, that I feel like I've been out of it long enough to realize like how good it feels to not be in the loop of it, and also just being in a place where I choose it rather than feeling like it's a necessity to a fun weekend.
Yeah.
Good. So good.
And like I really pay attention to the frequency that we're operating at, and I know it brings me into a lower frequency because I know the feelings I feel around the times where I do drink, and it's not where I desire to be. Yeah. So
phenomenal.
I'm not like itching at the pub door.
Yeah.
Where when Corona, to some degree subsided, whatever you want to call it, they started to lax out here in Oz about it. I wasn't rushing to go out to anything. I was so much in my kind of fresher and stronger routine of working out and eating healthy and everything. I almost felt like I don't want to undo that.
How's that going to go when you get back to Bali? Were you not
I was killing it in Bali, man.
Yeah.
I was killing.
I feel like see, because we go to Bali and wear rat bags.
Yeah.
Like we no.
Well, you got to remember though. You got to remember, because you guys kind of come in and out. Like you go for a bit, and you're like, I lived there, so the first year out of the last 3, I was like an absolute party boy for sure. Like I got it out of my system to the point where I had no fear of missing out anymore.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me to just, stay in my workflow. Yeah. But I believe in hustle and flow. Yeah. The flow is like more of like the feminine, like having yourself love time, the party, the celebration, blah, blah. The masculine is like, I got to get back in and hustle, and do my work and get my life in order and have some form of responsibility and not just live in reward all the time. So, Bali is an interesting place. You've got to be really grounded. You got to be clear in your direction. You got to have a good vision for the future that you're excited about and committed to. Otherwise, you get sucked into the rhythm of Bali. Bali has its own rhythm, as you guys know. Yeah. Isn't it interesting when you see some people that go out there that don't have their shit together? They get thrown through a freaking washing machine. Yeah. And some.
Like, we watch it. We watch it all. We see it. We're like,
someone's landing and living in Bali, like, and T-3 months. And getting home.
You seriously need to know how to adapt, and you need to have your life in order, because people go there without their life in order, going, it's going to heal me and blah, 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 blah. And you can have some healing experiences, but like all sorts of stuff starts happening if you haven't got order in your life. Like you lose your wallet, your car gets swallowed in machines, you crash your scooter, someone steals something, you get sick. All these different things start happening, and Ben and Emil, who also are living out in Bali too, we watch this happen over and over again. Like we see people get pumped to come out. We're like, this is going to be interesting.
Which is amazing. And you guys all do live there. I just had said off the podcast, I said, are you loving it in Gold Coast? Are you going to go home? And you're like, no, I'm going to go home. But I want to go back to this rise of Joel Brown. Right. And this is what I had started with. Like, I have watched your rise, which I think is phenomenal. And I know all of our amazing listeners, if you're listening straight away, or you circle back to this podcast in months and years to come, they're kind of still at the beginning of their rise. Lots of them are still wanting to do better, be better, have more, you know, make an impact. And I know for you Willetton boy, you know, started out and you were FIFO. Did you do FIFO? Were you? Tell us, like, I want to take people back and like take them through this journey of Joel Brown.
This is like, how long do you usually do your podcast?
As long as you want. This is Joe Rogan. No, usually an hour.
Okay, so all right, I've had a very colorful past, and I mean that in a sense that my mindset is very much a growth mindset, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm successful in a lot of the industries I've stepped into. I'm very open to, if I have curiosity, I'll step into it. And I did that from a young age. You know, you knew me as Joel in Willetton that went on to have my own radio show, you know, DJ, produce music, ended up managing songwriters and producers, went into the music industry, signed a subsidiary under Atlantic Records, working with people like Usher and Pharrell and Pitbull and all these like huge artists, then like not feeling fulfilled in the music industry and leaving it, everybody questioning me. Then coming back to Perth, centering myself, working in a sales company in corporate, selling telecommunication solutions for corporate and businesses, medium businesses in Perth, and then meeting Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, you know, and like diving deep into my self-development before that, but also being challenged by him to cast a 10-year vision for my future, and then me identifying my values and creating what is today Addicted to Success, which is one of the number one motivation, self-development, educational platforms and movements online. We've reached over 322 million website views. Wow. Podcast is at almost 4 million downloads. Wow. But, you know, I don't say that to brag. It's like there's an answer in it that essentially people are looking for hope. They want a formula for hope and faith because they're lacking in their life. So many people are in lack. They're in scarcity. They're pushing their dreams to the side and getting stuck in society's way of thinking. And I think this one here really just challenges that and says, hey, there's another way you can do this. Give this a shot. Yeah.
And it's like, you say, like, not to brag. It's not bragging, right? Because the proof's in the pudding. Your content's good. People like it. They consume it. They tell other people.
And I've been doing it for 11 years, man. Exactly, if you've got me staying in something for 11 years, it's working.
Yeah,
Because if it's not, and I'm doing my thing, I'm out. Like I'm like, cool, it's not working. Let's go next. I have this like always had this kind of like sense of urgency and haste to my dreams, and I think a lot of people sit on their hands for too long.
I was just about to say, but we talk about this all the time because we've got, you know, like one of our best friends, PK. I'm like, I've always said one of her greatest gifts being next to her, watching her launch books, launch her business, create a movement in Perth. I used to say, being so close to her, I'd watch her think of something, and then it was like 2 seconds later, implemented. And you were actually kind of the one to pick up on that, and you were like, well, babe, if you really want to go to the next level, it's like action it, get into action, do it. So that's what you're saying is like,
I'll tell you this: success loves speed, money loves momentum, income loves inspiration. Like that's how the energy of the two work. Like that's how it works. Seriously,
I love it.
I shot a video the other day. It's on my Instagram. I talk about turning the lamp on in your room, or turning the lamps on in your room, and essentially what it is that when I was 7 years old, for like 3 years there, 7 to 10, after school every day, I used to get picked up by my mom. She'd take me to her workplace and I'd wait a few hours and my dad would come and pick me and my brother up. And she works in a aged care facility in a nursing home. And I used to walk around in the wards and go into the rooms and talk to like these like 80, 90, 100-year-old people and hear their stories about the war and like leaving countries and immigrating and, you know, things that happened in their time. And I didn't know how valuable it was at the time. That was what I did. And I just remember this, it's kind of the essence of the energy of the conversations was very much about like, if you want to do something, do it. And it was very much about, I wish I did this, or I wish I did that. Or if I was in your generation, I would be doing this. I'd hear it so much from a lot of these old people that were on their deathbed. It was never about like, oh, I made this mistake, or I wish I didn't do that. It was more like, I wish I went and took the action. Yeah. And so this whole concept that I came up with of turning the lamps on in your room is, if you walk into a room and it's dark, you want to be able to at least see something, right? And so the clarity in your mission for success is very much about like starting somewhere with something. It doesn't matter what it is, just something that gives you at least like some get-go, some steps, something in there so that you can start building upon that. And I challenge my students all the time. They don't have their vision mapped out or they don't have the business plan. I go, so if I came along and I put down in front of you a whole blueprint template with 20 to 30% of a vision filled out, would that be easier for you to do your vision? And they're like, oh yeah, it would, because they would just build upon it. I'm like, all right, so it's not even about doing the vision. It's the fact that you're overthinking it. You're trying to perfect it. You think it needs to be a certain way. You haven't even started. I said, start and just turn a lamp on. That's it.
Yeah, I love that.
And then walk away from it for a day or two and then come back to it and then see how you feel about it. Every time I do that, you'd be like, it would blow your mind how many people actually start getting into action. It's because they're overthinking the start. Once you start getting momentum, you're good. You're sweet. So I'm just like always, turn the lamp on in your room, and then you get to, it gets lighter and lighter, and then everything becomes clear. I'm doing it with my book right now that I'm writing, and it's at the start it feels really tough. It's like, what's the structure? How do I lay this out? Like, is this or that? And then as I'm putting it together, more and more is becoming clear to me what needs to be in play. And away we go. So
that's amazing. I'm so excited. I'm like, I didn't know you were writing a book. I'm like, hurry.
I've been writing a book for a while, which is interesting because I
was wondering why you didn't have it.
I think you asked me. You're like, why hasn't Joel written a book? I'm like,
I'm gonna tell you this. I was going to 4 years back, and then I had to ask myself why, and I got deeper into it, and it's because everybody else was putting books out. I'm like, screw that, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Right. And then it got to a point where it became really meaningful to me because I started noticing so many of my students that were like, oh, if I just had your book on this, or do you have a book on that? I was like, man, I really need to, I get to put this book together now. And I wrote half of it, and I was on a train going from Paris to Nice. And I put it on my laptop, and I didn't have the internet, so I'm typing it all up, and I'm in massive flow and putting it all together. And then my freaking new Mac laptop, only 3 months old, just crashed and died. Took it to Apple. They're like, it's dead.
Bro.
I'm like, but what can you do? They're like, it's like a 2% chance this will ever happen. And they're like, it just died. So I lost half my book.
I'm like,
and then I got so frustrated with that, screw it, it's a sign, blah, blah, blah. I just can't be, and it's good because I sat down recently and I started writing it out again. And I've actually written it from an even better angle. So I'm happy that it didn't play itself out.
I piss people off with this whole whatever happens is meant to be, but I just so believe it. And I'm like, I've done it so many times. It happened the other night. I actually was writing this big long status and it crashed. And it was I'm like, this is my best work on Facebook, but it crashed, and I went, boom, I am not meant to post that. Whatever that, it was it's just not meant to be. So I'm so excited.
It's the same playing guitar, right? You can be trying to learn something on guitar, and it just won't happen. No matter how hard you try or how long you practice for, but you put it down, you come back the next day, and you just nail it. It just flows out of you. And it's the same thing with writing as well. You can try, you can't force creativity and inspiration. You can't be like, okay, it's 2:30. I'm going to be inspired and creative until 5:30.
But have champagne there.
Well, and this is the thing. It's so crazy you said force, because I was about to drop in and say there's a difference between power and force.
Yeah.
There's a book by David Hawkins. Have you ever read it? It's called Power versus Force.
No, but I am now. I'm like, oh my God.
This guy's a genius. He's dead now, but incredible genius. He created the map of consciousness. If you've ever seen that, where it has the different frequencies. And right at the bottom is shame and guilt, and then you have fear and pride, and then it moves up the ladder. It goes to acceptance, understanding, joy, love, enlightenment, bliss. Right? It's a map, right? And so I do actually refer a lot of my confidence coaching around this, because a lot of people are especially in relationships, what they're trying to do is, and you guys can probably relate, before you met each other or even just seeing other couples, often what they do is they say, I want a partner that is accepting. I want a partner that's understanding. I want a partner that's forgiving. I want a partner that's all about love and joy. But they're
not
in shame and guilt and fear and anger and pride and all these other things. But they want that. It's like, how can you possibly believe that you're able to hold space and openly receive it, and even feel within yourself, even if you had an experience of that you're worthy of that if you're not that yourself?
100%.
That book behind you, your shoulder there.
12 Rules for Life. Oh, Jordan Peterson, man. That's my guy.
He's our guy.
That's sort of setting your house and what it's all about. You can't go out and impact other people's lives, or even solve small problems if you can't get your own shit together.
Yeah.
So if you can't get your values straight, or your things that matter to you in order, It's like you've really got no right to go out and
Coach.
or coach or be in a relationship and demand things from other people when you're a mess yourself.
But I say this about even so building a business. So our business relies on people and on self. And so for us, it's all about, I always say, people say the same thing. They're like, I want to attract people that are driven, motivated, all these things. And I'm like, but you're not. Yeah. You're not driven. You're not motivated. You're not connected. You're not all these things that you want. You're not authentic. So I don't think, for me, I know, speaking personally, I only attract who I am, and I only attract what I am. And even in the relationship, the marriage, it's the same thing exactly. It's holding the space. But I love the idea behind, is this the book, so Power Force, where you spiral up or you spiral down? Is that the emotions? So you know how like joy.
That's more. Ken Wilber talks a bit more about that. Yeah.
Teach me, Joel.
That's something more like spiral damage. Well, I actually just stepped out of a 10-day workshop called Psych K.
I wanted to talk to you about this.
Yeah. And so a lot of this is working with the unconscious. Actually, all of it's working with the unconscious, and it's done through muscle testing. And so what's really interesting is if you listen to Jody Spenza's work, I'm sure you guys are familiar with him. Your body is the unconscious, your unconscious is the body. Yeah. And so we have within us the autonomic nervous system. So if I'm saying something like as simple as this, and I teach people this in the vision process, I teach my 10-year vision process, is if you're saying, I'm a millionaire, and you're writing these affirmations out, but you know for sure you've got 10 cents in your bank account, your autonomic nervous system goes, bullshit, it doesn't line up. And it actually weakens your body. It sends a block in your electrical and emotional energetic charge in your body, and it weakens your system. So in fact, when you're saying these affirmations over and over like that, and you're also holding a conflicting thought in your mind, you're disempowering yourself. It actually goes against you. Yeah. And that's why I'm not the biggest fan of affirmations. Yeah. What I teach in the 10-year vision process, and I actually had Jody Spenza, when I had him on my podcast, we were talking about this. And at the end, after it, I was like, hey, I've got this 10-year vision process. This is my formula and what I teach. I want you to poke holes in this. Tell me if this is like something that's good. Is it like bulletproof? Yeah. And he's like, he goes, I'm a fan of what you've put together. I think you've structured it well. It's a great formula. He said, here's one thing that I would probably shift. And he didn't give me the answer. He just challenged me on it to like come up with something additional, which was really great. I love that. He said, Joel, the thing is with affirmations, your autonomic nervous system is going to trip and it disempowers. He said, so we've got to find a way to almost like do a flip so it goes on the other side of the coin and challenges it so that your brain thinks of it in a different way. And I said to him, I go, okay, cool. So when people say, yeah, I'm going to launch the business, or I was going to do that thing the other day, but everything before but is bullshit. Yeah. You've totally just like deleted that thing you said before, and it holds no more weight. And what proceeds after it is what you actually meant, right? Yeah, and believe. So I said to him, well, what if we did it the other way and flipped it? Instead of justifying why you haven't done it, what if you justify why it could be in creation and getting the mind into power, not force, but creation? And he's like, yeah, that could work really well. So I said to him, okay, what if we did a positive justification to that statement? He's like, that could work. So it was like something, for example, of like, let's say, because I'm a speaker and a coach. So if I wrote down in my 10-year vision, I'm a powerful transformational speaker and coach. Yeah. Right? That in itself, if I'm not there yet, it's conflicting. My autonomic nervous system, But if I say I'm a powerful speaker and coach, transformational coach, because I get mentorship once a week, every week. I learn new skills on how to become a better speaker. I care about getting my students and clients results, and I'm committed to the coaching and speaking game for the rest of my life. Now I've got a positive justification that backs up that statement, and the autonomic nervous system is about to go like that, and he goes, okay, that's the plan, right? Yeah. So now it's like we can get on board with that and get supportive. So now you're communicating with the conscious and unconscious to go, we've got a game plan here. It's not a statement as if you're trying to trick yourself to be it.
Yeah.
It's now we've got a justification as to why I believe that to be
Well,
true.
hang on. I want to ask because I'm like, oh, just to get that clear, because the whole time I'm thinking, oh my God, this is phenomenal. And then, so I thought you were saying, I am a speaker and a coach because, and then the plan. And I thought, because you already did that, but was that the goal? It was like, because it's like, because this is where I think people will go, this is so valuable, Joel. Like, this is so amazing. So people are going to want to do this. So say they don't have a mentor yet, but they want to be a coach.
Yeah.
So it's like, I am a great coach because I will go, I get mentor sessions. So they got to go get the mentor sessions. Yeah. Is that the plan or is it the...
And you're getting really close to what it is, and it's great that we can clearly define this. It's speaking in the present tense as if you already got it there.
Okay.
Because you got to remember, the unconscious mind, the subconscious, it doesn't respond to questions. Okay. You can't ask questions. Like, it has no understanding of that at all. It's not built like that. It's a freaking computer and you command it. So you create statements to direct it with the program. The issue is that if your brain, so you got your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere, typically what happens is, let's say I have an experience where I'm like, I want to be a speaker and a coach. Mm-hmm. And I go to speak and I have an experience where I scared the crap out of myself. I get up on stage and I have a terrible, like, I'm stuttering and mumbling and whatever it is. And I can tell the people weren't receptive of it. I walk off stage, I'm like, well, I'm not a good speaker, right? That's the I'm not good enough, right? Yeah. Coaching, I start looking at people like Tony Robbins and, Gabby Bernstein, all these people, and say, well, they're really powerful. I'm putting myself into comparison. Now I'm taking myself off the stool of greatness there and bringing myself down and going, that person's way better than me, and I'm letting myself off the hook to be great. Now what's happening is I've got two supporting subconscious beliefs that I'm not good enough in both those brackets. So if I'm saying that, right, like, I'm a powerful speaker and coach, and I'm wanting. Yeah. Wanting is coming from lack. I want to, or I will do that. Is stating like more like it's not there yet, and I've got to create it. It's I have. Yeah. I must, right? Like, these are like, it's already there. It's present. The thing is, all these things are already available to us. Your subconscious mind doesn't know time. It's timeless. It actually doesn't have any concept of time in itself, right? And so.
Well, and reality, almost. Like, that's what they say. It doesn't know the difference.
It can't separate. No. Imagination is the gap. Exactly. It brings it in and you can create whatever you want, which is amazing. But the key now is, it's like, okay, well, if I sat down for, 40 minutes each day for 30 days straight, which is 20 hours of study, which is actually the average time to learn basic to intermediate skill sets. And if I then backed it up with even more of a benefit to actually doing that and saying, well, if I learned a new skill set and committed to it for 40 minutes a day for 30 days straight, and that's 20 hours, and got me to a level of intermediate, and that meant that I could increase my salary to 40 or 50K more per year, or it could get me 3 new clients paying, 30 grand a month or whatever it is, would that be beneficial? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to make the statement, but at the same time, positively justify it with an understanding of the massive benefit that will come. Yes. It's almost like you're pulled by the pleasure of it. Yes. The only other thing is being pushed by the fear. So if I can understand that there is no threat to it, if I'm pulled by that pleasure in itself, and I go through the programming steps, which is the unconscious reprogram, which I talk about, that's where you can now go, okay, cool. It's more beneficial for me to move forward than to stay where I am, because where I have stayed is keeping me and getting the same results that I'm not happy with. And that's what I look at, is like, I'm not happy with these results. That's my pain. Yeah. I want more. I get more.
I look at Morgs when you talk about that, because we're like this dichotomy of that, in the sense that I am so pulled by pleasure. I'm that guy. I'm like, I always move towards pleasure, whereas Morgs moves from pain. His motivation is he'll always move from pain, and I'm like, but I move towards pleasure. But I love that justification, or the explanation more so, of how that works, because I know so many people, and I was the same. I remember even with affirmations, I love affirmations, but I always say, I get into action with it. I don't sit there chanting mantras like I am. It's like I believe it. I get into action with it. I work hard with it. It's not just, I think that's what they say.
What you just explained to me, it sounds like, you know, we've seen the rise of the online coach and Instagram.
Morgs is going to go here.
Go for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah,
Man, I'm safeguarding the industry, bro. I know what's going on too.
We're a victim of it too with what we do, right? It's like, it just seems like anybody can rock up and, hey, I'm a coach now, right? But it's the same with network marketing. It's like, there's no one checking qualifications really on the way in, right?
Yeah.
But what you just explained to me, it sounds like there's people that are coaches that could actually benefit from going through some of your education, because you mentioned at the start how like I am a powerful speaker. They seem to just start and finish there, and like there's no work beyond that. It's just that they rock up and Australia's #1 life coach in the world or whatever.
Yeah.
And now
voted by their mum.
Yeah, and now they're out there.
Yeah.
You know, like we had someone come to Anna the other day.
Oh,
he's like,
bless.
Oh, Anna, I can sense there's like a whole nother level.
It was a coach, and I checked him out. We'll go there. But there was a coach, and he came to me, and bless him, like, but it was like, obviously pitched his thing, and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world. But then also I looked him up, and I'm sure he's amazing. Yeah. But I was like, you know, this #1, and I said to Morgs, I just feel like, you know, if you looked at who he was, if you looked at what he did, and nothing against anyone, but it's like people have to be discerning when they pick coaches.
Well.
Like,
if people are listening to this, and they've just heard us talk about this and what you said as well, but what should people look for when
in a good coach?
When they want a good coach and a good mentor, from your position at least?
Man, I mean, this is a process.
Call Joel. Addicted to Success.com.
I might not be the best coach for you. That's like, and that's the abundant mindset behind it. Even from my perspective is, like, I'm in a blessed place to pick and choose my clients. I don't work with everyone. I don't care if someone throws money on the table. I'm like, I don't want to work with you. Yeah. Like, I'm just, certain people I just don't vibe with. I don't want to work with them. Right? Do I believe I have a solution for most people when they come to me with their mindset? Yeah. I'm at the place where I feel really confident in that. The thing is, I know guys in the game that know how to make money like it's like they blink and they make millions, you know, like it's so easy for them. Yeah. They're spiritually bankrupt. Yeah. If you go and ask their wife, are you happy in the relationship you're in with them? They want a divorce. You know what I mean? Like, they don't spend time with their kids. Their kids don't know daddy or mommy or whoever, right? So, like, I look at that and go, well, that's not a great mentor for me, because that's not the type of life that I desire to create. You got to ask yourself first, what's the type of life I desire to create? If everything and anything was possible, which it is, by the way, and I could live as the ultimate version of me, what would I love to create? Just me, not anybody else. Just like, what would I love to create? Yeah. And not just what do I want? What do I really want? Like, get really clear, like, write it out. No bars, blocks, money, time, energy, you know, wasn't important. It was all there for me. All resources around me and accessible. What would it be? Now I then go and search for a mentor that has similar values to me, that also understands my vision and sees my vision. The reason why my mentors love working with me is because I'm so freaking clear on my vision. Yeah. When I come to them, I go, I need support with this. This is what I'm creating in the next 5 years. This, and this. And they're like, oh my God, Joe, I love working with you. Yeah. Because I've taken out all the bullshit work that they need to do, and now we can get down to business and get into action. They love it because, like, it's rare to find someone in clarity nowadays. Yeah. People are so in comparison. People are so in confusion. Yeah. People are so in this, like, not believing in themselves and lacking that confidence that they're constantly looking for someone else to give them the answer.
What do you think that is? I mean, who knows the answer, but they've
lost connection with themselves.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Self-awareness is like huge. But how do we develop self-awareness? Yeah. Right? Self-awareness is actually sitting down and getting really clear on what would life look like without the society, rules, protocols, programs. What would it look like if I didn't do this to try and get love from my mum and dad, or from my partner, or a possible date, or whoever it is? What would I do if I could rewrite the rules and play the game in the way that I desire? I've just met way too many examples of people that have done that I can't deny the fact that that's actually possible.
100%.
You know, so.
And you are that. You are the embodiment to me now. Like, I mean, I know this, and like I said, I've seen, and I'll continue to see the rise of Joel. But it's sitting with you now, hearing you. It's like the clarity and the certainty is so clear. And I know you talk about this a lot, and I'm like, this is why I don't want to do it now. But vision, 10-year vision. I've heard you say it. I know you coach on it. What is that for you? Because you said it before. You said, I think it was like an aha moment for you, or like the breakthrough was like you sat down, you got clear on where you wanted to be in 10 years. So where does that passion come from? Like what is that for you? Why 10 years? Why not 2? Why not 5? Like why 10? And how can people...
It's a good question because we're so used to thinking forward short term.
Yeah.
Next month.
Because I don't know if I've got 10 years.
Well, some people, when I sit down with them for the first time, they don't even know what the hell they're doing later today.
Yeah.
It like freaks them out. And it's good. It's a good exercise because it's meant to warp and distort your way of viewing your life. Because if it was to just be normal, you will end up with normal results. I love challenging perspectives.
Yeah.
I love shattering people's norms. I like encouraging them to step into a different paradigm in the way that they view the world. And like, I want them to be tested at the core because that's how we create change. It can't be from the same space.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so many quotes out there that support that. What I see is that when you cast out 10 years ahead in time, now you can see how attached you are for it to be a certain way. And then you realize where your perfectionism is coming in. Because most people are like, oh, 10 years, I'm like, you can do it.
Yeah.
There's something that's in the way. What do you think it is? And I get them to like, you know, oh, no, I don't know. What if... And I'm like, you're so freaking worried about getting it right that by default, you're already getting it wrong. You know? So I'm like, get out of your freaking mind's way, your heart's way. Like, let your soul speak into what it is. Because that's the thing where it's like, if I could create anything and anything from where I am, and if I really ask myself the question of what's blocking me and stopping me from realizing I'm already here, very quickly you move into creation. And this is that power versus force. Power is creation. Force is destruction. Most people are creating visions, creating goals, creating businesses, creating online brands from destruction. It's coming from shame, guilt, fear, you know, apathy. There's pride. There's courage. Like at most, like on average, within human society, we're operating at 209 hertz in frequency, which is up at around pride. Like that's the best we're doing on average, right? Pretty scary stuff. Moving into a place of acceptance, understanding, forgiveness, love, joy, enlightenment, all those areas, right? It has to come from building the certainty within yourself first. I've got a framework that I teach, which is, and I do it with all the coaches. I go hard on coaches. Like I love that we bring this up. I'm the hardest on coaches.
Let's take it back.
But I'm the hardest on coaches because I knew what it, like where I was being an ass and where I was being so much of my significance and all the other bullshit on the you know, on the rise, as you call it, up and coming, you know, my come up.
The glow up.
They grow up. Yeah, hey,
glow up of
I don't know if we ever
coaching.
grow, like. I like the grow. I don't know if we ever fully grow up, but we're working on it, right? But what I teach is we have 3 different stages within all of this to make it to a level of top level leadership, which is certainty is the first stage, right? Now, what I do find is when I work with a lot of people, I ask them, so what's life about, right? What do you want more than anything in life? If you could see yourself doing whatever it would be, and you did whatever it took, what would it be that you create? Like, where would you stand? They say, I want to save the world. Like, I don't know how many times I heard that I want to save the world. And I go, cool. You're jumping from the first, you're at stage 0 right now, and you want to jump to stage 3. You haven't even saved yourself. How are you going to save the world? Right? So we go to that stage there first, which is certainty. Right? If I can increase the certainty within me, which is the self-awareness, which is the confidence, which is healthy self-esteem, which is forgiveness, which is working through my childhood wounds, which is no longer being, you know, in my pity party within my traumas, which is now I've acknowledged it, accepted it, and let it go, and had hard conversations. Honestly,
needs to hear this.
That's the part there that everyone, like, you can force your way through it and start faking it to make it, which is what 90% of people in the game are doing right now. But that's going to come from a place of lack and scarcity. You can't possibly create something that's timeless, that has massive impact from lack and scarcity. It just doesn't work. Those frequencies they're not the same. They're not the same. So if I'm coming from that place trying to achieve the 3rd stage of saving the world, which is actually impact, it's never going to be pure and it's not sustainable because my impact is now determined based off how much significance I can get in my impact, right? because you're still trying to get your needs met in the first stage by trying to complete the actions of a third stage person. That's why you see a lot of these people that they feel so guilty and shameful around what they do. So then they end up giving all it away. And then they end up coming back because the frequency pulls them back to, now I feel resentment because people don't appreciate me giving all my stuff away.
And that's a misalignment as well. Total misalignment.
People do it in relationships.
Yeah.
I'm not meeting needs within myself. I'm scared. I have fear of abandonment. So I'll give everything to that person in a relationship. And then when I don't get appreciated for it, I resent them. But secretly, I actually resent myself.
100%. Yeah. I said, one of my favorite quotes, and I mean, it's relative-ish, is from, I think it's Maya Angelou. I don't even know whose it is. But she's like, never trust someone that says I love you that doesn't love themselves. And that really hurt me when I heard it. Forever, like I was like,
Were you in Trigger Town?
Trigger Town, because I loved so hard, or I loved so hard, right? I love now, but it's like, and this was my journey of self-love. That's kind of been my whole piece over 10 years, and owning my shit and dealing with the childhood trauma and everything. But it's that. It's like, and it's what you just said. It's like if you're resenting elsewhere, you resent yourself. If you're hating and judging elsewhere, you're hating and judging within yourself. Yep. So I'm like, everyone needs to listen to this podcast. Share this, because it's that piece right there. Even if they don't want to, whatever, go on to stage 3. If they want to stay in stage 1 and still live a beautiful, successful, happy, thriving life, if they can just deal with that level 1, what a fucking powerful way to have explained it just then. Yep. What's level 2?
Well, this is what were we going to say?
I was going to say, people who say they want to change the world, you're often quite virtuous, but like a lot of the time, like what makes them think they've even got the capacity to do it right now where they are, right? You need to go off and you need to develop some skills and do some things like you're saying as well to actually become that person who can do it. And this is where I think a lot of people fall out of whack, right? They like you're saying, they want to be at stage 3 right now without actually going through stage 1 and 2.
And the truth is they can't.
Yeah. And that's why we have got a lot of shit coaches in the world.
They won't stay there.
No.
It will get so exhausting because they without even knowing it, they cheated their way to get there, but not with anybody else, just within themselves. And you know it, like on a deep subconscious level and an energetic level, you know you're still carrying shame and guilt and everything else, and you're trying to serve with high capacity and hold a bigger container of space for people that really do require support.
Yeah.
And it feels really heavy. And it shouldn't feel heavy, because it gets to be light, but when you work through the stages in the right way. Hey, I jumped too.
Yeah.
I moved from, like, I still, money was my motivation 11 years back. And I was inspired to create a successful movement and a self-development website and all these things. I still carry my traumas, and I had, for the last 6 years of what was actually the first 6 years of my journey, and then the last 5 were 2 very different brackets. The first 6 was, I was still the guy like drunk and getting crazy and like hooking up with lots of girls and then like talking shit.
What's wrong with this so far?
Says the fucking married man.
When are we gonna get to
He's
that
fully
part?
embracing his shadow side, isn't he?
he's I always say Morgan is like the king of just like accidental personal development. Like.
Yeah. I love that.
Okay.
And so, and this is great because it's reflecting back to me like, cool, I was coming from those places to get needs met in me because I couldn't meet it in myself. And then the last 5 years was more a relationship journey. I spent from 2018 through to halfway through 2019 last year, just working strictly on relationships. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe you guys see me posting a little bit more about it.
I do.
It's kind of like a thing that I've gravitated towards because I understand that relationships is everything. Yeah. Just a relationship with money, relationship with business, relationship with family, friends, intimate relationship with yourself, which is the most important relationship. And I realized I was looking for the needs to be met from the external instead of actually meeting it within myself first. Yeah. And so I had half of certainty built through my business success, but I hadn't fully built certainty within my self-awareness because I still had healings to do. I went and developed a completely new relationship with my dad. My dad used to bag self-development and everything. My dad came to my event in Bali last year and he was on stage and had breakthroughs and he freaking loves it and wants to come to every self-development event.
Really?
How cool is that?
Yeah, but I healed an aspect of our relationship that I never even knew was there.
Yeah.
Because my relationship coach asked me, if your dad was to die today, would you feel complete with your relationship with him? And I sat in that chair and my eyes started to well, and I had the biggest headache come over me, and I started bawling my eyes out, and I was like, I didn't even know that was there.
I think a lot of men in particular would relate to that.
I remember I lost Dad 3 years ago to cancer, and I say to Morgan all the time, what were we watching the other night? And I said, if only people understood that time is King's Speech. And I just said to Morgs, like, people don't understand that, you know, haven't healed a relationship or lost someone that they really love, that they hadn't built or healed a relationship with, that once it's gone, it's gone. Or once you don't heal it, it's not healed. And I remember even with my own beautiful dad, he was a rat bag, like, douchebag that was absent, that was like, he's got his own, well, he's gone, but I'll tell his story one day. But I remember choosing at 18 to have to go back and bridge the relationship and then build a brand new relationship with him. And it was the best thing I ever did in my entire life, because for 10 years, you know, he got sick. He was sick for 2 years. So for 8 years, I just unabashedly built this like dream relationship and healed it. And we had, I always say, in our 10-year relationship, we had more of a relationship and more love and more joy and more humor and more real, like honest conversations than most children and parents get to have in their entire life. Yep. Because of that chosen relationship that I healed. And that's what you're saying now, which I love.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, there's not
Congratulations.
Nothing.
Thank you.
Nothing in this world is permanent or guaranteed. And at the end of the day, the only thing you really have are the relationships you create.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once you're gone, people are going to remember you by the relationship that you held with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing as well. I think and again, we're living in a digital age, right? Where social media is kind of the way people communicate these days. And, you know, if you look at some of the tension and the things that are going on online, it's because people have forgotten how to connect and how to have an authentic relationship, because we're missing social cues, the nuances of me being able to look you in the eye and all those sorts of things as well. So and people are always at each other's throats and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm interested to hear a bit more about the sort of work that you're doing
in relationships.
with
well,
people.
here's the thing, like, to your point about what's happening in the world, I think the thing is there's been this huge distortion and people don't understand what is meaningful and fulfilling anymore, or where the work is to do. That's why they keep trying to go ahead all the time and get the strategy after strategy, thinking the answers are in there. Whether you like it or not, your tribe is still your family and is still,
So
you know,
true.
the people you grew up with. Like it's like we don't understand how much of an effect it actually had on us on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
When perfect example, my dad, right? When I was brought into the world, the reason why I know the areas I could heal now, and I did the healing and created an incredible relationship with my parents, is because when I called my dad and said to him, Dad, if you were to pass away today, I wouldn't feel complete in my relationship with you. He kind of was like, this was his answer. Oh, I think you're just overanalyzing everything.
Oh, really?
That was his first.
Our faces.
Yeah, I know.
That was very presumptuous.
Never assume.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably,
Is that the
you know what would
second?
have been hard?
Yeah.
He would have been faced with the question of his own mortality as well.
Well, this is the thing. Like, he wasn't used to receiving that, you know. So that was his first response, in deflection of the truth. And so I said, Dad, I'm serious about this. This is an important thing for me to have this call with you. I want you to really be present with what I'm saying. I don't feel like I would be complete in my connection with you if you were to pass away today. And then he stopped for a bit and he goes, I agree. He said, you're right. And he said, I'm sorry. And I said, I didn't call for an apology. I said, I didn't need it. I said, I actually thought our relationship was fine, but for whatever reason, on an unconscious level, like, I'm emotional about it. There's something there in my body.
Yeah.
And if I know there's something there, I don't want it to hold me back. It's like a rope holding down a hot balloon, you know? It's like, I don't want that. And so he said to me, he said, well, you know, the thing is, from 0 to 4, I didn't know this, guys. Remember,
I was like, hang on, no.
as far back as I can remember, I was
Yeah.
like 4 years old or 5 years old,
Yeah.
right? Like Winnie the Pooh, Mickey Mouse Club, Ninja Turtles,
Best
like,
ever.
or like Cheese TV, all these, like, you know, these things I remember as a
Cheese TV was
little
the
kid.
best.
Yeah. Like, you know, all these things I remember as a little kid, I couldn't remember that. And so Dad said, when you were born, your mom had postnatal depression, and he said she would, like, hold you like this with this anxious energy and stress and wouldn't let me or anyone come near you. He said she was snappy. He said, quite frankly, she was a bitch,
Yeah.
acting like a bitch. He said, I couldn't be around it. It was overwhelming. I didn't know how to handle it. I would often walk away and leave. And I'm like, what? So here I was from 0 to 4 getting this imprint on me of anxious energy, thinking that's relationships and that's how relationships are. And then I'm trying to find the love from my dad who's dismissive and walks away. So what's my pattern?
Yeah.
I date people where I'm anxious attachment, right? Like if that person steps back or doesn't respond for like 24 hours or or like whatever seems to threaten the relationship, fear of abandonment comes up.
Yeah.
Then I start wanting to control it. Not that I was like obsessively controlling. It was just like I could
then
tell a bit of neediness was coming up in me,
patterns.
and I hated it about myself. I was like, why am I acting like this? Like, I felt like I was in this like unhealthy feminine. I wasn't being the masculine man that I can be in my potential. And so there I am attracting dismissive, avoidant women in my life, trying to get love from them. They were scared of being engulfed in the relationship, and they were withdrawing whenever it would get deep and intimate.
Yeah.
And then here I am, when they would withdraw, it would trigger me and I would get anxious.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, oh, I don't like it. I'd step back because I'd work out after a while that wouldn't work. And then they would slowly come back in and then it would happen again, and I'm like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Once I realized that was the case and I healed the relationship with my father, I went back, and the woman I was in a relationship with at the time, I looked at her and I'm like, oh my God. Like I didn't lose physical attraction for her. She was still attractive, but I was
But
like,
emotionally.
oh my God, I don't need anything from you anymore.
Yeah.
Like I actually was like, this is weird. I don't need anything.
Yeah.
And it was so weird for me to feel that because I realized that I was
how
needing
powerful.
something from the external. We didn't end up working out because there were other things around, like work that was required from both sides. And like I was going through my process and she wasn't wanting to. And then as a matter of fact, months later, she actually called me and said, thank you. She said, all the things that you were working through that you said like we could work through together. She goes, I just wasn't ready to hear it. Now I'm doing the work, which is great. And she's doing it and she's with someone else. That's awesome. And I was like, oh my God. It moved me so much back into my secure attachment because you have anxious attachment, fearful avoidant, dismissive avoidant, and secure attachment. And so, and my relationship coach, after months and months of work, moved back in and healed so much and worked through so many processes. Yeah, she's like, you're in secure attachment now, and I've attracted someone else into my space that like
Have to go for dinner.
she's in Spain, in Barcelona.
Oh, Barcelona.
A little bit tough right now with the COVID
Yeah.
situation.
Damn it.
Borders are closed on both sides.
How's that working with?
Bro, this is the first time I've ever developed some form of relationship with somebody where it's just been over FaceTime. Like, it's weird.
So purely, like even
No intimacy.
even before, so you weren't physically
Into me,
there
I see.
prior to COVID.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
some next level Kama Sutra shit right there. What are they all training? Tantra.
You're like, what are they training?
Get the
Yeah.
chi flowing
Oh,
through
that or it's just like connection through conversation.
Weird
I'd
that.
like it to be that.
Call me old fashioned.
But even with her, she said the same thing. She's like, we've never done this. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's really interesting because it's almost like it's developed based off a foundation of friendship first, in a sense. In like a very interested, connected friendship, which from there is a really good foundation.
That's a
I
great
know
concept.
you guys knew each other for, like a
18
time where
months.
you developed for quite a while first. Strong foundations because we don't have all the crazy ass
Absolutely.
chemicals of serotonin and dopamine and all that like rushing through our minds and like uncontrollable desires in our
That's
body.
one of the things, my grandparents told me. They were married for 60 years.
And they're only not now because Granddad passed.
Passed away. But I mean, in the end, my grandma did all the talking, but obviously in the beginning, what they had was a bond with when the physical fades, the way you look at the things that make you attracted to each other, all you're left with is the other person and the ability to have a conversation. Because that's where
Absolutely.
I did ask the other day though, we saw this old like 80-year-old couple in the shops and I'm like, do you reckon you're going to want to root me when you're 80?
Yeah.
And you were like, I don't know. Does it even work? So we're curious.
I thought to myself the other day, I'm like, does 70-year-old people like look at
Give
other 70-year-old
blowjobs.
people and think like, oh, she's hot? Do they
Appa-
actually
well,
do that? Or
apparently-
do 70-year-old dudes like look at 25-year-old girls
And still think they're
or do-
hot.
Someone needs to fact check this.
someone needs to.
Apparently,
Yeah.
like STD rates
In-
retirement
no.
homes are like through the roof.
This is true. No, we do know this for a
I
fact.
blame Viagra.
I worked with a guy in politics whose father owned a retirement home or like a nursing home, and he said how like the nurses will catch them rooting. Am I 12? Because they're bonking, like having sexual relations.
No, that's another thing too.
Anyway, I want to go back because I love
have
this.
sexual relations with that
Yeah,
woman.
exactly. Well, no, but I'm genuinely curious. Like I was like, oh, honey, look at this old couple. Isn't it so sweet? Do you think you're gonna want to have sex with me when we're like 90? And you're like, I don't know. Can it even work? I don't know. I don't know. We're curious. We're very curious. But no, I heard this quote the other day because on this whole you were 4 years old imprint. I love this quote, and it's like this is a whole other podcast, but it's give me the boy at 7, and I'll show you the man.
Yes.
And woman.
Before 7.
Well,
yeah.
0 to
Boy
7.
Before 7.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Give me the boy before he's 7. So I
Before 7, yeah.
I
So you meant.
reinterpreted it.
So that's that whole thing about the person
0 to
you're gonna
7.
become is largely determined.
We know why, right?
What's the imprint? It's like no, Joel, tell us. We're gonna like pull shit out of our ass and guess and sound smart.
So from 0 to 7, our brain's operating in theta state, which is
That's
essentially like your brain is a recorder.
Hypnosis.
It's like a sponge.
It's recording everything, and it has to because you've got no other reference points in your mind.
Yeah.
Beliefs are created through reference points, and especially if you're learning it from someone that you've subordinated to. So if you've got someone where you've
Parent.
made them like an authority figure, parent, a teacher. Somebody just in an authoritative state, and you're like, that person knows so much more than me. Whenever you kind of discount your own basis of understanding and you put that person's understanding or whatever it is, way of teaching or education higher than yours, you're probably going to take it in as truth to some degree.
Yeah.
Now, we have reference points, and I look at it like a web. It's like you got a reference point here, you got a reference point there, another one there, another one there. The more reference points you start to get about the same type of thing, the stronger the web gets. The harder for that belief to break because it's more interconnected, right? So that's why often when even with this reprogramming of the unconscious that I've gone through with this IK is that you may have like, let's say you got 2 branches and then in between you got a web, like a spider web, and it has maybe like 5 or 6 connected points to hold that web in place. Sometimes what we do is we go in and we have this emotional experience, or we have like a thought that's more powerful than the emotion that's like, oh, and it overrides it, and it's like, oh, maybe that's the truth. So then it plucks away at that one kind of web. Let's say, for example, smoking. If someone's smoking, like, I want to quit smoking. Cool. So you have a desire to quit. That's great. That's where we start, right? How would your life look like, or how would it be if you were to quit smoking? Oh, it would look like I'm healthy and da-da-da-da-da. Is that important to you? Why is it important? Well, it's important because I want to be able to live a longer life to spend more time with my kids. Like all these meaningful things. Okay, cool. So we start to dissolve that there. But then there's 4 other or 5 other points where the web's connected. So it's still there. So then you look at, we call these secondary gains. There are other gains as to why that person's still doing what they do. They're getting a payoff from it. They know what it's costing them. It's costing them their health. It's costing them smelly breath. It's costing them feeling shit about themselves. But they have other gains. I can't hang out with my mates anymore because when we hang out, we smoke. Now I'm going to be the outcast. The other one is I'm so used to putting my hand to my mouth like this. It's like, what am I going to do when I stop smoking? So sometimes what we do is we replace it with something else. Instead, have some water. You want a healthy option, right?
Yeah.
But it's true. That's what people do is they replace it sometimes with a almost just as detrimental habit or something else. So we work through these different secondary gains until it becomes so unsupported to the point where the belief has no legs to stand on, and then you have another thing in place. But that takes time. You know, it's habit based too. So because remember your body is your unconscious is the body, it also responds to habits. So when it's constantly repeating a certain act, it overrides and starts to reprogram it. But habit reformation or reprogramming takes like more than 66 days. They say on average. I'd say 90 to make sure.
Ooh, I love
when I
this.
quit smoking, I would make the deal inside my head, right, I'm going to quit smoking. And then what would happen is like subconsciously, I would forget that I'd already wanted to quit and I'd be smoking.
Yeah.
And it was like without even like realizing that I was doing it, I was just going straight back to it. Just that habit was just like so habitual, just in a circle, like I couldn't break it. Until I quit cold turkey.
I was going to say, because you always say,
never did it again.
Yeah, you always say that. You're like, people that can't quit, I just quit cold turkey.
Yeah, but that's like, I'm like that with certain things. Like, I'll make a decision, and then once the decision's made, it just gets done. Like,
I think that's a value thing.
Your decision was probably tied to a heavy amount of painful realizations. If I continue to do this is this. So you created a pain that was almost unbearable in your mind to have to like still stay in that same place that you overrode it. And I think it's good that you know that about yourself, is that you operate through pain.
Yeah.
The question is it ideal that you always want to be in pain to have to make change?
Probably not.
Probably
Well,
not.
you try and move away from it.
But it was more actually quitting smoking.
I'm the same as you.
You know what it was? It was more ego. Is that someone who I actually respected, a peer, said I couldn't do it.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this
Yeah.
podcast, Joel, because I hear some
Yes.
crazy shit that I've never heard.
James Stretch, who I used to work with.
Stretchy, yeah.
Yeah, so him, he was super fit or athletic and all this sort of stuff.
And he
I was
said
like,
you can't.
can't do it. He told me, he's like, I don't reckon you could quit. And I was like, I can quit.
Oh, he told you you can't.
Yeah.
Dude, you and I are so similar because like I operate.
I'll quit.
My default is pain.
Yeah.
Like, I know better, but at times, sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
Pain, and also when people say, "I bet you can't do this," I'm a rebel. I'm a rebel heart, mate. I go in. I'm like,
Yeah, this
I'll
is
prove
this
to
guy.
you.
Are you stubborn? Are you really stubborn?
I'm stubborn.
Yeah,
He's so stubborn. I think though as well for you, your value has always, since I've known you, even when like I was 17, you and however old you were, 18, 19, 20, 21, you have had this like deep seated value of integrity. And that's what I like about you. It's like if you, and it's almost that loyalty too, but it's like, I think that there's that value. Are values or can values be linked to can values and your living even accidentally are not in alignment with them help expedite habit breaking or habit forming or creating new neural pathways? Like, is there anything around
Great
that?
question. If I simplify, there's a lot around it, but if I simplify it, your values and beliefs drive every decision that you make. Okay? Your beliefs and your habits craft your identity. What I believe about myself to be true and how I consistently show up starts to shape who I believe I am.
Yeah.
I believe success is a habit. More of what you do is more of who you become, but it needs to be in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the vision piece, because like, okay, here's a vision. Now let's go in on your beliefs and your values and your habits and aim them all towards your vision.
Yeah.
And when you start seeing that working, you're like, oh my God, I'm starting to live the life that I actually desire. You can't help but to go, screw everything else that doesn't work for me. And you go in.
Yeah.
And that's where I take a lot of my students and clients when they're ready to go there. It's like, let's go as deep as we can into the trenches of your mind. Let's heal. Let's work through traumas. Let's reprogram to set yourself up to win, to give yourself the best chance to win, and make sure you're staying in your alignment. I never sacrifice my alignment.
Well, I listened to a podcast a day myself, but like one quote of the day by Sean Croxton in the shower. And there was one guy today, I should quote him, I don't know it, but it was like, you know how anyway, Sean plays snippets of like other people's stuff. And this one particular guy said, I will never, like it was basically like that. Like I have to live in so much alignment that even if the critic comes and even if the criticism comes and even if people don't understand, I won't ever do what's convenient essentially, because if to make you happy, if that pulls me out of my alignment, then I'm not winning. Like, and I love that. I think on a super basic level, I think that's easy for us. We're like, yeah, but of course not. But for people that are listening, it's like they are still so crippled to maybe even admit that they want to create a 10-year vision because it's like, oh, someone will laugh at me or people won't understand or my current friendship group won't get it. It's like that's, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but my belief is like that fear of what people think and that criticism is what's holding most people back from even signing up, say, with you as a coach to create that 10-year vision. It's like, oh, well, what will my partner think? Or, you know, they're still stuck in whatever loop they're stuck in.
Yeah.
What would you say?
We don't have a 10-minute vision.
Some guys do.
You can start there.
In a bar.
That's turning the lamp on in the room.
That is turning the lamp on in the room. But what would you say, like, and we can sort of like wrap it up from here, but like, because I feel
let's
like,
keep going.
Yeah, it's good. I know. But what would you say?
Uber Eats will be here all night.
Yeah.
I'm going to edit all this, so please.
He's the guy. What would you say to people? Because I feel like there's so much that we've unpacked, and I'm like, we could have gone, and we will. We're going to get you back. Please.
You got me on certainty. We haven't even moved to influence and impact yet.
This is what I was saying. What was it? So certainty, influence, impact.
That's what
we're on level 1. But what would you say for people? They're stuck there though, but that is true. Like people are dealing with all their trauma and trying to jump from 1 to 3, and they're trying to live this louder, better, brighter, bolder life, but they're so stuck in fear of what others will think and say. How do you coach someone out of that? Like, where do you start with that?
Well, this is the thing, right? What you're referring to before is majority of it is fear of rejection. If I put myself out there and it's not to the liking of my friends, and we only really care for the most part, mostly about the people closest to us because we hang so much up on what they say.
Yeah.
So I put that out, they reject it. What does that mean about me?
Yeah.
That means I'm not good enough. And if you look from a primitive standpoint of how our brain is designed, even through like the way that we have, carried on through generation and generation. If you trace it all the way back to caveman days, let's call it. If I'm not good enough, right, in my experience with my tribe, and they're like, he's not good enough. What happens is I get casted out. If I get casted out, guess what? I'm not loved. If I'm not loved, I won't be fed and provided for. If I don't eat, I'll die. Yeah. And that's what, from like layer to layer to layer to layer, as you peel it back, it's like that's really what we're scared of, which is total BS now in this day and age. Yeah. We want to die, so
this is big.
Yeah, and so like I call bullshit on that all the time. It's just like, what's the worst that can happen? Yeah. So then I write it down. What's the worst can happen? Okay. And what's worse than that?
It's 2020.
And pull it back and then look at it and just be like, okay, so that's not really that bad at all. Okay. Yeah. What am I getting from it?
I was going to say, we've got to be careful. It's 2020 saying what's the worst that can happen.
Fucking aliens at this point.
Kanye West says he's running for president.
I'm off.
That could be something else.
Well, do you know what that is? I reckon. Sorry, I'm just going to come back to that.
Hijack.
Let's go there.
We're like politics.
Political
we know.
agendas.
Yeah.
It's not. It's really pretty simple. It's just he's just doing it to take voters away from Biden. Young voters who would never vote for Trump, just taking away from Biden. They'll vote for Kanye.
Two-party prefer. Like we were talking about.
Well,
this
yeah. But the thing, Biden. I mean, that's another thing in itself. Right?
Yeah. He's a.
We could go there.
I just like watching his clips.
My question is, does the guy even know that
he's not? No, he's got no idea.
Do you think he legit knows how much of a screw up he actually is, or do you think he actually thinks he could win this?
I don't. I think he is.
Nothing will shock me coming out of this.
Yeah.
I won't be shocked.
Yeah. That place is a circus right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Have you seen his clips where he'll start just talking and he just tapers off and just fades out? What was the one he said?
I died. I can't watch it. Morg showed me one. He was like, he cries with laughter, and he's like, "Look at this."
He said,
it was so bad.
He said, young poor kids deserve the same opportunity as white kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what he said. I was like, that's a screw up. And then
but he doesn't understand.
If you vote for Trump, you don't vote for me. You ain't black. It's like, dude, how many more times? I bet his political team must be out there smoking cigarettes every time he's doing press conferences because
oh no, they'd have to be. Sorry, I worked in politics.
They'd be stressing hardcore every time he goes on
Trump's
stage.
new campaign logo. Have you seen that?
No. What is it?
Basically, it's pretty bad. It's a direct.
He's savage. Trump's savage.
Well, I think
it's a copy basically of the.
I don't think they knew that though.
But dude, this is
eagle with a globe holding the.
But you got to remember this too, man. Like cognitive bias is that we could often just go searching for things that.
And you always say this to me, like, what did you say? You say it all the time. You're like, I'll say something. And you're like, no, baby, that is like, not fallacy. Logical fallacy. That is a logical fallacy.
What do you mean? No, it's not. It looks just like the Iron Eagle.
I'm gonna be straight up honest with you, man. Like, I'm not in America.
Thank fuck.
I don't need to vote. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't agree with extreme leftists
Yeah.
agenda. I straight up don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And I'm also not down with globalists and elitists and the whole New World Order. Like, it's pure evil. And Trump publicly has said in conferences and on record that he's attempting to take down the deep state, which I'm a big fan of.
Totally.
That's corrupt as hell.
Yeah.
Don't agree with everything else. A lot of other things he says. I think when I see some of his stuff, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, he needs someone to filter his stuff. His press secretary.
He just never will.
His press secretary is amazing.
You can tell when he goes off.
Yeah, you can. He starts holding grip of how he wants to say it, and that's he's not a career politician, so that's how it's going to be for the most part.
Well, for everybody I know, everybody I've watched who knows him personally says he is an off the cuff, shoot from the hip type of guy. Like Shaquille O'Neal said, Donald Trump's not the sort of person to come up and be like, oh, your shirt's untucked, you shouldn't tuck your shirt, and he's like, hey, tuck your fucking shirt in.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, he's straight, and that's gonna intimidate a lot of people.
Intimidate,
exactly. As well.
But to bring it back to the frame of the certainty, the influence, you can't have true influence in this world without building certainty within yourself first, but from power, not from force.
Yeah.
Lower brackets, which I mentioned before. You want to operate from power. The way you do that is to heal your wounds, right? The wounds of I'm not good enough and all this other stuff. And you're probably gonna ask why. It's like how to do it. It's that's in another story or another episode all in itself.
Yeah, let's do it.
Also, I do a lot with the body, with muscle testing and everything else around it, and it's a process. The longer process is through habit change. It's going and referencing new belief points over and over again, feeding your mind with new examples. It's also understanding the payoffs that you've been getting from holding that belief. Because we always do, we don't just do something for no reason. We're doing it because we're getting something from it. Right? It's easy for you. If I was to say, your limiting belief of I'm not good enough. What's it costing you? And you could write a long list. Both of you, I can write a massive long list, millions of things. If I was to say, what are you getting from it? What's the payoff or the secondary gain? You'd be like, our brains aren't used to thinking like that.
Yeah.
That's where the program's coming from.
Yeah.
So if I can understand why I'm doing what I do in a sense of I'm getting this from it, now I can start challenging this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if I go and launch the business and my friend Sally doesn't like it, well, okay, why wouldn't Sally like it?
Because Sally doesn't like fucking anything.
Sally's
Karen.
an angry Karen.
Karen. Poor Karen.
Yeah.
So Sally, and it's like, well, maybe Sally doesn't believe in herself, and
Yeah.
she's trying to keep me down to feel
Yep.
better, and so she's scared of me rising up and doesn't.
Most people.
Most people, yeah. So then if I'm like, well, is that worth me sacrificing my dreams in order to keep Sally happy? When maybe she's got her stuff to work on. You know what I mean? So now I've challenged it and gone, okay, I'm looking at it from a very different perspective now than just reacting of, I'm not good enough. Oh my God, I'm getting the feeling in my body again. I'm going to stay still. I'm scared. I'm in fear. Now the physical process it takes is different. Me in person is I test for it through the body.
Yeah.
I do muscle testing, like kinesiology.
Yeah.
And it tells me what's strong and weak within the body around subconscious beliefs.
Yeah, right.
And we create statements to program the subconscious. And within that, we have like 8 different balances. And the balancing techniques are like putting your body in different postures to create whole brain states, to relax the corpus callosum, the muscle in the middle, to start creating communication between the left and the right hemisphere.
Yeah, right.
If I have an experience where I feel this heavy emotion and stress and feeling like I'm not good enough, guess where the I'm not good enough starts to anchor from? The right side of the brain, which is the emotional, the creative, And so if it's trapped in the right side and I over-identify in the right side of my brain, that's where it's going to come from. And so all I'm feeling is that in the body, and that's how I'm reacting now to every time I feel like I'm not good enough. Now, if I create a whole brain state and bring them both in to work with each other, we've got enough brain power now from the logic and the emotional to be able to make sense of what's happening with a new statement we reprogram back into it to override that old belief.
Yeah.
Then when I go and retest it again, it's strong to that new statement. So it's essentially, in a nutshell, how it works. And what's really cool about subconscious is your conscious mind operates at 40 bits per second.
Yeah.
Your subconscious works at 40 million bits per second.
Yeah.
So it's like a super bullet speed train compared to a little push cart on a track.
Yeah.
And we're operating from the push cart on the track so often and letting the speed bullet train operate in a program that we did choose it, but we don't know that we chose that shitty program from when we were like 5 years old. So I'm walking around in a 33-year-old grown man's body trying to make business decisions with a 5-year-old running my fucking business. Like, do you know
He
what I
makes
mean?
some cool decisions, but about colours and juices.
My logo looks cool, stuff like that. But it's like, what about real business? What about like real grown man stuff that needs to be made? You know, and it's the same for women too. It's the same thing. It's like, for everyone. Anyone making like relationship decisions. Often in relationships, when the inner child comes out, you see it. You see it screaming at each other and acting like, this is unfair and you did this, in blame, in shame, in guilt, in reaction. And that's why I love this whole concept of responsibility. I know Jordan Peterson talks about it in 12 Rules for Life. Yeah. Someone asked me yesterday that couldn't do the belief change process with me because they weren't there in person with me. And I'm going to be doing this at my workshops and events and everything. It's going to be such a game changer. We're getting QEEG, brain map monitors and everything to show the change happening in the brain and everything. Yeah, I'm investing in all this stuff. It's going to be so gangster.
Gangster.
But they asked me, okay, cool. If I don't go through that process, what could you tell me about this whole unconscious or subconscious belief change? Like, how can I start just doing things in my life that will support me in more change on a subconscious level? And, I read a book a little while back by a guy by the name of Anders Ericsson. The book's called Peak. He's worked with some of the highest profile performers in the world, like extreme athletes and high achievers and big Fortune 500 founders of companies that are crushing, that like have to make split decisions and so on. Yeah. And what he realized, it was like one of the biggest takeaways from the book. What he realized was what separated the super successful from even just the successful everyday people is their ability to adapt. That was the number one trait and behavior, was their ability to adapt on a whim, just get into
and
it.
in
right?
all ways, like...
In so many ways in our life. Like, I don't know if you can measure it in every single category, but in the major categories within their field. And so I looked at that and I thought to myself, like, wow, but what does it take in order to be able to adapt? It takes massive responsibility because you're owning everything that's happening. You're no longer victim to your environment. You're no longer victim to what that other person said or did.
Yeah.
You've taken full and extreme ownership in who you are and how you respond, not react, but respond to the situation. The word responsibility, if you hear the word respond, that comes from the word responsibility, how I respond. And I choose my response. Reaction is more like,
Yeah.
that person did it. The environment did this or that. The GFC hit. Corona, this or that. We talked about it before. It's like we've had our biggest months because we weren't reacting to Corona. We're responding and we weren't buying into the bullshit fear. We took our power back and went, wait a minute, I get to play this. The thing is, the money didn't go.
No.
It just moved to different spots.
Yeah.
And you got to find out where those spots are. It's freaking playing chess and checkers here, you know?
A lot of it went to Zoom.
A lot of
It did too.
no, and we did say that before, like off
Should've
the
bought shares
podcast.
in that.
Morgan told me
I told her at
to.
the time, I said, it's moving. But you know what happened? There's another company that has a very similar stock code.
Yeah.
It's called something else, and it's like their share price. They don't do anything like what Zoom does.
I
Stock
know.
Accidentally bought their shares.
Yeah.
people were buying it because they thought it was Zoom.
They thought it was
that's
actually
great.
Zoom.
That's
So good
great.
for them. But I would say just on that then, and this is it. To me, I hear that and I get excited because I'm like, so adaptability, you can learn that, and responsibility, you can take.
Yeah.
They are two things that are I mean, everything's learnable.
Responsibility is one too.
But I would say that in 2020, you have a real chance, I think more than ever, as a coach, as a speaker, as an individual, as a parent, as a wife, as a husband, to move the needle forward in your life because a lot of people aren't doing those two things. They are not adapting and they are not taking responsibility. So I feel I hadn't heard that before and I love that because I'm like, I see personally myself a lot of, I mean, we were talking about it off the mic, saying how we're like, oh, how you going? And Morgan and I had said to Joel, we're like, or said to you, how we had opted out at the start of we just were like, we are not playing in this pandemic. Like, we're here to make more money.
Unsubscribe from the
we
bullshit.
unsubscribed and we plugged it. Like, we were like,
Yeah.
let's go. And we did. And we've
love
had amazing success and we own it. We're proud of it. Like,
And there's a lot
but
of people as well.
we adapted.
You moved into creation.
And
So
we
you
took
guys ultimately did. You
responsibility.
created. You're like,
Yeah.
we're going to create now. And that-
Cool. No, but
Yeah.
I feel like everything we've just like learned and talked about and is everything. I'm like, but I think for the listener, let's go here, let's do this because there's so much in that and we're so having you back, even if it has to be recorded. If you
We could, I'll
you
come back
flee
again
to
for sure.
Bali,
Yeah, I'll come back.
but
We can talk influence. We'll make sure.
yeah,
that
we'll go
they-
like
they
through the
implement certainty
stages.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it right there. So what's the one thing that listeners can do, having listened to all of this now, so inspired, but like, oh my God, I want to make a change. I want to go. First, I would look Joel Brown up.
Yeah.
On Instagram. Where do you actually play the most?
We'll put all your socials in.
We put all your socials, but
you can-
Yeah, it's Instagram for
I feel
sure.
like Instagram.
Yeah, DM me on Instagram. I'll respond to my DMs.
slide into
I
his
haven't got
DM.
bots and all that other stuff happening.
Yeah,
I respond. I'm a real person.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Joel Brown. What is your...
I am Joel Brown.
I am Joel Brown.
You got it.
But what's like the actionable thing they can like stop this podcast and go and do immediately? Like, what's the one thing?
Yeah, we touched on it before. You know, really drawing out. Okay, what is the limiting belief? And the limiting belief is what's the common story that I tell myself, the bullshit story.
So
you know,
I'm not
like
good enough.
Yeah.
I'm
The concern, the
unworthy.
critique. What's the thing that every time you go to level up, it's like, oh, that thing comes up. If it was a statement, what is it? You know, I'm not good enough. I'm not loved. Failure and mistakes are bad. I don't have enough. Like whatever it may be, write it down. Right. Then draw 1, 2, 3, 3 more columns to the right of that. At the top of the first one, write payoff. The second one, write costs. And the third one, change. Right? Identify very quickly, you'll be able to do it. What's it costing you? If I keep living in the story of I'm not good enough, what's it costing me? Well, it's costing me acting on my dreams and putting my business out. It's costing me not approaching that guy or that girl that I'm attracted to. It's costing me creating really shitty content because I'm trying to play the game like everybody else because I don't think that what I do is good enough. So I just play the stupid game,
Like a
right?
10% watered down version of
Yeah, exactly.
you are.
Yeah.
Brown.
They're out there.
Right. And you know, then we move to the payoff. Like, what's the actual payoff that you're getting from it? If I stay where I am today and keep telling myself I'm not good enough, every time I say that, what am I saying it for? Am I saying it because it means that I feel safe, that
Okay, so
that I save money and I don't put money down in the business because there could be a risk, but I play it safe. We get them to really think about why they're doing what they're doing. Most people don't really like go into what's the payoff they're getting from it. So once you've identified that, you want to challenge the payoff. That's the change. So if I was scared because I thought my friend would judge me, the change that you create in the third column where it's change is I'm going to go have a conversation with my friend and tell my friend, hey, this sounds pretty like, and some people it's maybe super vulnerable, but like, hey, it sounds kind of crazy, but I'm going to be honest with you. Every time I go to level up, I start to get this fear that if I do that I'm going to start becoming successful, and I feel like I'm scared or I'm fearful that you and I might not hang out as much. And I know that it's like we call it a hallucination. It's a hallucination that I keep coming up with.
I love that.
I just want to know like what are your thoughts around this? And it's not even expecting them to say anything. It's just like the fact that you've shared it, you've acknowledged it, that it's there. When you identify that it's there, that you've acknowledged that it's there, you've accepted it, now you have the power to grab it and let it go.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I think that is, to go back to what you said, I think that is taking responsibility for the...
It's all responsibility.
Yeah, for the thing that the limiting belief. It's like, okay, I've owned it.
Yeah.
I've identified it. I've, written all the things. And then I'm just thinking, because I'm like, oh my God, I know mine. I know my limiting belief. I've always had it. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this. What's yours?
What is yours?
Mine is I can be good, but I can't be great.
Okay.
So mine is always like, I'm good.
So you're playing it like 50%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's mine. And I know it. Like I'm like, and then I bust through it, but I go back to, I can be good, but not great. I can have success, but not too much. I can be in the limelight, but not all the time. It's always that's mine. But I'm going to do it. I will do the exercise 100% today. What's yours?
The fact that you're willing to be vulnerable.
Just what other people think.
Yeah. It's a fear of rejection.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. And I suppose ultimately, yeah.
So the fact that you're vulnerable enough to say that's great. That's already an amazing start. Like, and that's the thing, we've got to get really real with it and go, what would it be if I was vulnerable and in my full truth? And you went there, and it's like, it makes it easier now to approach the payoffs and create the change because you're already willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, you must be willing to be vulnerable for change. Yeah. And with you, the fear of rejection, I think that you're pretty confident. My experience of you is confident, and like, you crack jokes, and you kind of, I got the vibe for the longest time you don't really give too much of a shit about what people think.
Yeah.
We all have subtle levels of things too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've done pretty well in my life and worked through a lot of the I'm not good enough. It's still kind of a little bit of it kind of shows up at time, rears its little head here and there. It doesn't fully go away. It still has some form of a presence. It's just that the charge around it doesn't have the same kind of high energetic charge. It diffuses the charge, so it's dim.
Not crippling.
Exactly. So yours
I love that explanation though.
Yours may be kind of dim underneath it a bit, which
I think it's always still kind of there. You carry stuff from childhood, from parents, from friends, from families, and teachers. And
you want to turn the lamps down on these things and light the lamps up that you actually want to
turn the lights off. Yours though with other people is that you don't care. You give zero fucks about what other people not really close in your life.
Strangers on the internet
you care what like your inner circle.
Yeah, people who I hold in high esteem.
It's natural because you hold a value in it and you don't want to lose that value.
Yeah.
That's just human nature. Okay, I'm not in your body, so I don't know. But on a percentage of 0 to 100, what would you say you're operating at when it comes to fear of rejection? Like overcoming that fear of rejection, or even like feeling like you're not too worried about people rejecting you? What on a scale of 0 to 100%? What percentage are you?
Are you saying like on a scale of say 0 to 100%? How much is it impacting me? Like that fear of rejection? Or
I don't
understand the question.
Well, I would say you could say it that way. I was going to say, how confident are you in not worrying about people rejecting you on a 0 to 100? What percentage?
85%.
85. Cool. Yeah. So you got a 15.
Yeah.
And to you, because you've been also doing a lot of the work over the years, both of you have, I know that. Like you've been speaking for quite a while, putting yourself out there, building, working yourself. 85% to you now might not be okay. Yeah. So you're like, I want to do a bit more work. Yeah. Someone maybe at like 20%, they're like, oh my God, I got so much work to do, right? The thing that I say, because I believe our words become our worlds, right? So like just like
Amen.
Really not safeguarding, but like being conscious and aware of what comes up. We have our reactions within our own mind, unless it's trained over time, but we have typically multiple reactions a day within our mind. But the second thing that happens is that then it leaves our mouth, and we get to choose in between the reaction that comes up in our own instinctual behavior to what we actually say. Yeah. You're almost reinforcing by the words that you're using because you've gone through 2 gates by then. If it comes up in your mind and you're catching it, cool. But then you change, translate it and change and use different words for it. What I often do is I often say, I get to do this. I don't say I have to, I should. Even when it's really tough, like I get to have this tough conversation. Yeah. Or I get to do my taxes.
Yeah,
Not
I say
fun,
that all the time.
But like this changes your relationship with what you do. And that allowed me to move to a place of stronger responsibility. And whenever I do myself inner work, I look at it and go, oh, I'm noticing that the not good enough is still kind of there with these certain things. Most areas I feel like I've been doing a lot of work around. There's like a couple other little areas where I'm like, okay, this here, like my money, it's like, to me, my cap on my money may be very big to somebody else and vice versa. Maybe you guys are similar. I'm like, but I still get to do a bit more work around it.
Yeah, always.
And I come with that enthusiasm if I get to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. I always say that though, and it's so true. What did you say? How did you say it though? Your words become your worlds.
Yep.
I just say, Mum, and I was brought up with this, but you speak life into being.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I mean, I remember growing up as a child, it was like, we weren't allowed to say, because I'm one of 5 kids. So you'd be like, you're an idiot. Like, you're like, rah. But Mum would be like, take your words back. So we'd have to like rebuke. So we'd have to go, I take it back. Like we'd have to say aloud, I take that back. And then we had to speak something else into existence.
Wow.
So we had to say, no, you're smart.
Your
Like,
mom's cool. I like
yeah,
that.
J-Mac was phenomenal. But and so I've always said that, like, but I love how you said it, your words become your worlds. Because I'm always like, you speak everything into being. That's why I'm like, I'm smart, true. I am amazing, I am confident, like, because I am. But that's where then that is a deep, like I've done the work. Like I don't sit there, my kinesiology, like I love that muscle testing, and it goes back to that whole, it's like, if you really don't believe that, then that muscle weakness is there, which I love.
Yeah.
But I don't love it, but I'm just saying I love that analogy of like, we can't just speak it into being. There's all of that other stuff that goes on. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like even with you understanding that what you speak into existence is what turns up in your reality, right? In that sense. Because you know that, and you're also watching what you say, you're also training your subconscious mind at the same time. Hey, I'm the freaking master here. Like you don't get to just run it, because we say things sometimes. I'm like, oh my god, where'd that come from? Or you react. It's like, oh, it came from your subconscious programs. 90% to 95% of our thoughts are the same as the day before. We only think 5 to 10% new thoughts. I was speaking with Bruce Lipton. I mean, you know Bruce Lipton. He wrote the book Biology of Belief, the Hyman Effect. And he said to me, Joel, he said, your reality, whether you like it or not, is a direct printout of your subconscious programs. Which means that you understanding that means you've got to take full ownership.
And responsibility.
Us sitting here today at this table with your podcast set up, with your dog under the table. And like me being here, all of this is what we co-created.
Absolutely.
Like this whole experience, you living here in the Gold Coast and not still living in Perth, like all of that was a subconscious printout of which became your reality. And see how you guys are in this together. You also have a massive effect on each other. That's the influence piece too, which is part of it, is that you influence each other. Yeah. So knowing that, and that certainty also increases influence, you want to be in a place where you're both responsible for your own building of your own certainty within your own life, right? So, like a lot of people say, power couples. I see a lot of people that like are trying to appear as a power couple, but they're not doing the work on building certainty to be powerful within itself. Yeah. They're forceful couples. That's what they are. They're forcing it.
It's so interesting because we did it.
They want that label of a power couple to sell you some shit.
Significance.
Yes, and significance more than anything.
But like, right? When someone walks into a room and they have this purity of certainty within them, it's like they have this conviction. They stand 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And it's almost like this command in the room. The most certain person in the room has influence. They sell
say wins.
To everybody else. Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
So that's what we get to move next to our next conversation. But it's like, just really drop in and check in with yourself. You're listening to this or watching this right now, and do the work that we mentioned today. We talked about the working through your concerns and your limiting stories and the payoffs and the costs and the change. You can still go out there and influence. It's just way more powerful when you come from a place where you're healed, where you're whole, where you're complete in yourself, or somewhat complete, because they're all still doing the work. Developing it from a place of certainty, sales becomes easier. Enrolling people in your vision becomes a hell of a lot easier. Like, it just becomes so natural and flow. And it's like when you're saying before, writing something, like me writing my book, I'm not wanting to come from force. Force is, I need to write this book to be a big deal, to be significant, to get status, to be the New York Times bestseller. I didn't give a shit about that title.
Yeah.
Like, that's a place that you can come from in order to be able to try and get influence. I'm not trying to do anything. I just am doing these things because it's part of what I get to do in my journey. Yeah. And that's the place you get to operate from, where you're doing the work.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And let's leave it there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, man. I'm so glad that.
Yeah, we could go on all day.
I know.
Tomorrow.
Well, that's 90 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, solid.
Bang.
Okay.
It goes so fast. But thank you so much, Joel. We love you. Like I said, I've watched the rise of you for, well, I don't even know how long. I was in year 10. And it's been magnificent. It's been magnetic. And what I love about you is that you embody your message always. You're not a coach for me that tells people what to do. I feel like you've always lived the message and then can show others the way. So thank you for showing people the way today.
If you want to connect with Joel, check the show notes. We'll have all the links to his webpage and socials and all that sort of stuff.
Slide into his DMs.
Yeah. Awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.